finished the broadcast, so I feel kind of bad because people may have had some questions and I didn't get a chance to answer. So, so we'll continue with the same topic, and then hopefully you'll remember your questions from yesterday. So, Great Gold, hello. So let me just bring up the YouTube here. And let's see if anybody knows that I am on YouTube. Okay, so I guess it's not my usual broadcast day, so nobody's hardly on YouTube yet. So welcome, folks. Twist Mints on YouTube, and Real Rubberado, and other people have not announced themselves. Announce yourself so I can say hi. NorCalif 2010, hello. Storm Brothers. Still early, I guess. Eagle Source. Eagle Source is here. So, welcome. So yesterday the topic was about Linux, and I was even telling you that these devices that I made are all Linux based. So this alarm system is Linux based. This will go on sale on my store in a couple of weeks. So this is an alarm system based on radar, but it doesn't map your house like the Pixel 4.
Alarm sequence initiated now.
So then the alarm is set. There's the camera. There's the outdoor camera. And it has actually a full computer and flash drive inside. So that's why it's self-contained and can keep the motion video right on the device, and you don't need anything else. And you can look at it on any browser. Inside your home only. It cannot be controlled from the internet. So it's one of the important things to make sure that your IoT devices cannot be controlled from the internet. And since I'm the expert on that, then I want to make sure that you don't get invaded and hacked from the outside like Ring. So good evening and lighten up. So welcome, folks, and let me see who else did I miss here. We got 9 of you on so far on YouTube. I know this is kind of a unexpected night. It's Saber. It's Saber from New Haven, Connecticut. Welcome. By the way, hello, Sylvia Sue Lynn. If you're not subscribed to my YouTube channel, please be a subscriber so that you can get the other videos, because I only do live broadcasts on occasion, and mostly I do the videos. So mostly it's short videos now. It's not. Oops, forgot the alarm was on. I moved. The alarm was on. So this is going to go on the store. It's all ready to go. It's going to go in the store in a couple of weeks. So, and then the camera, we're starting to produce the camera now, and it should be ready in a couple of weeks. So that's what it's looking like right now, and it sends you notifications on the Braxme app. So anyway, I was talking about the fact that did you feel the earthquake 10 minutes ago? I live in the Central Valley. No, I was playing piano. I did not feel anything. I was playing piano right here 10 minutes ago. Maybe I was so into the music I didn't feel anything. No, I did not feel a thing. Not even a slight jolt. Nothing. Zero. You know how it is when earthquakes happen. You know, this thing shakes. So that's what happens here in my broadcast. When there's an earthquake, then you can actually see the shake here. My wind chimes went singing. Are you sure it's an earthquake, Sylvia? What? How strong? How strong was the earthquake? Maybe it's not an earthquake. Maybe your house was shaking. So, Anyway, the music moved me, not me, because I was not moved at all. So apparently my music must have been boring, because it did not move me at all. So the topic was to introduce you a little bit to Linux yesterday. What was that? What did I miss there, Mad Cow? Linux doesn't feel nearly as zucked up to install as the Windows in the other partition was. I looked on. I looked on. um, yeah, where did you install Linux, Mad Cow? So typically, I don't know. I don't feel like I want to install Linux as a different partition. You were rocking out so hard you didn't feel it. I don't feel like loading Linux in a different partition. Certainly, that's a good way to test it to see how it feels. Load it on a separate partition, and then and then not interrupt what you're doing. And that's one way to do it. I don't know. That's not my way. I like it to be clean. Then I know I'm in full control of it on the one operating system. So my installation was on a separate. I have a older computer. It's 6 years old. I think 6 years old, and I installed Ubuntu on it, and it was well. First, you make a live USB, King Chinook. So instead of a live CD, you make a live USB because that's easier. Then you stick the USB into the drive because many of us don't have CD players anymore or DVD players. So you load it on a USB and then you instruct your operating system to boot from the USB, and then it will start with what is called a live USB. What that means, in case you don't know what that means, because that's the typical installation of Linux. You put it on a disk and you install it, and it allows you to actually try it out. You can do like a try and install. If you try it out, it stays on the live USB disk, the flash drive, and you can actually start it from there. And if you don't like it, then you say, okay, let me load some other live USB and see what it's like. Then you can check out and see if it works, if the Wi-Fi works. That's actually how I tried it. I tried, for example, because I was interested in the Librem 5, because I was writing some software for the expected Librem 5 phone, which I bought, but will not receive for a while. I said, wouldn't it be nice if I was able to run that and actually get familiar with it now, and then I can test the app against it and see if it works. Because I actually wrote a Linux app already. I just I took one of my Android programs and rewrote it completely and put it on Linux, and it works fine. And it's a completely different rewrite, but it was so much faster. I was able to write it, and I didn't know anything about writing for Linux, and I was able to write it in a few hours, couple of evenings, I'd say a couple of 2-hour sessions. So so I did it in about 4 hours. I was done. Cool. So the flash USB has Ubuntu. So I loaded Pure OS on it, and then I loaded. After that, I said, okay, the drivers don't work in Pure OS, so I dumped that. I tried Ubuntu, and everything worked right off the bat. The Pure OS had some driver problems, and the Ubuntu one, the Ubuntu 18 had, and it has GNOME on it, which is exactly what I wanted, because I wanted to have GNOME on it, because I wanted to test the stuff I was putting on the Librem 5, which is using GNOME. Did you get the Zuck in Linux phone yet? You know the NZA intercepts the Librem and plants malware. Okay, so I read today, Levendi. This is on Wikipedia. In case you're doubting me here, this is on Wikipedia. It says on Wikipedia that the three-letter agencies, CIA, National Zucking Agency, can pretty much watch your phone. They can check your photos, check your files, check your email, check your activities, on your phone, and this apparently is. I mean, I've heard this on Vault 7, the WikiLeaks, CIA WikiLeaks and Vault 7, but it's interesting to see it printed on Wikipedia. Because if you're saying, well, I don't believe that because you made that up, and I can say, no, it's actually a press report, I believe from The Guardian, and it was published on Wikipedia. So Wikipedia has that same comment about the fact that your Android and iOS phones are completely manipulated by three-letter agencies. And I'm actually wondering why. I'm going to tell you a little story about how they hacked your SIM card. Some of you may have heard this. Guess I need to save it for another laptop then. Hello, open source. So some of you may have heard this, but your SIM card apparently has been hacked on the phone. Livendi. Your SIM card has been hacked on the phone, and you are wondering what does that mean? What can you do, and how do they do that? Well, if you have to understand the architecture of your phone, and then from there maybe you'll understand a little bit of how they do this. And I've been talking about this over and over, and the more I explain it, the more accurate I sound when stuff like this happens. So this is the situation. So apparently somebody proved that they can hack your phone through the SIM card. Now, how the heck do you do that? Well, what they do is they send a SMS message, a text message. They send a text message which triggers some commands. Text messages that you cannot see on your phone, but it actually goes into the phone and talks to the baseband. So here we go. This is exactly what I've been saying about Intel Management Engine. There's a backdoor to the Intel Management Engine where an external party can send commands to IME, Intel Management Engine, and control your Intel computer. A backdoor. This is nothing new. This is what Librem Purism has been trying to do, and System 76 trying to sell you laptops with Intel Management Engine turned off because this is so fucking dangerous. So this is the interesting thing about how this works. So apparently, you can issue commands to your phone through SMS. So this means your carrier could issue commands to your phone that apparently will execute arbitrary code. You can actually, you can run anything, arbitrary code that can be run from the phone. And how can you do this? How is this possible? Because I thought that this phone is iOS, and iOS won't let that happen. Or maybe you have an Android, and Android won't let that happen. This is happening because of the baseband, and this is the part I've been trying to tell you for weeks now, and people don't believe me. The issue, guys, is that the firmware is in the baseband. And what is firmware exactly? Until you actually understand what I'm saying here, you may not visualize what's actually happening. The baseband, or the cell carrier chip called the baseband. Hello, Johnny Valent. The baseband, or the chip that controls the cell signal that talk to your carrier, is actually a Linux computer. It's a Linux computer. So apparently there's Linux code inside the baseband. So there's a small version of Linux on there running, and it can execute commands. And then when your phone gets a carrier update, when AT&T and T-Mobile and so on issues a change to the baseband, it goes into the flash flash drive of that baseband or the flash memory of that baseband chip, and then when you restart your phone, then it executes the new code, which is in that baseband chip. So it's actually a coprocessor. It is actually running Linux on the little baseband. And now this is where the problem is. People have said, oh, can I load Graphene OS? Can I load Lineage OS? Can I load this OS, Sailfish OS, this OS, and that OS on my phone, an Android, some sort of Android variant? And I've been saying to you that there's nothing you can do. You can load any zucking variant of Linux that you want, and you're not going to affect the baseband because the baseband is its own zucking computer. The baseband is its own zucking computer. Hello, Mario. Hello. The Librem 5 is doing until now. What, doing a good job until now. What happened now? Did something change open source? So anyway, so what I'm trying to tell you here is to explain to you that on your computer there's actually multiple processors. This is the firmware I keep talking about. When I say firmware, I'm saying that these processors are running separately on your device. This is now a proven thing that, hello, Chief Tor. This is now a proven thing that I just, I'm trying to explain to people when they say they want to load all these different OSs, other versions of Android. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what you do because the baseband has its own operating system, its own computer. It's like running in there separately, kind of like the Intel management engine. Didn't I see the final product yet? You mean all these pictures I've been posting in here? That? You don't like that? Okay, so anyway, back to what I'm talking about. So the issue is, how the Zuck do you control something that operates? The term often used is out of band. It's working separately on its own. It's not in the same band as the operating system. So given that it operates by itself with hidden code that you do not control, and covered by various proprietary kind of firmware that nobody actually understands, and so nobody actually knows what you can do on the phone. Yet companies like, listen to me here, companies like the Harris Corporation, which makes the Stingray devices used to spy on phones, and the three-letter agencies are able to access the back door of your phone. How does can they do that? Well, as it turns out, and this is why I hate all of these phones, is iOS and Android phones, is because the baseband shares the same memory space as the OS for Android and iOS. Shared the same memory space. So if you issue a command to the baseband and the baseband reacts it, as some hackers have found out that they can do. See, they're not going to tell you what you can do with a baseband. So some hacker figured out, okay, since it's a computer, let me send commands to it. And they said, how do I send commands to the baseband? Well, it turns out you can send commands to the baseband by texting it. So they send baseband commands, and it does what is called a silent SMS. See, not all SMS messages appear on your phone. Some are silent, and they go directly into the baseband and never exposed. This is the kind of crazy stuff we're talking about. So some of the SMS will go into the baseband, and you're not going to know that you're being controlled. So we are actually at the mercy of these mother zuckers with these phones that are so unsafe. And you're wondering why I'm looking forward to having a Librem phone. Why do I want a phone like this? Because if you look at this, you can see that the baseband, the big chip on the left, which is on top, which is why it's so thick. That's the baseband, and the one on the right there is the Wi-Fi. So those are the two uh, chips that are separate on the baseband, which operate separately. So they have their own operating system, and they can be unplugged. So they just said, okay, let's put it on a slot. Those are called M2 slots, the same slots where you plug in your SSD drive, your hard drive, and they put in those basebands. So there's no way to protect yourself or check your phone for change. Well, there is. You get a different phone that doesn't have this zucking code on it where you have a hardware kill switch. So that's why I'm so excited to get a Librem 5, because I want to turn that zucker off. If I'm not expecting a call, I don't want any signal to come in through there. So the kill switches are extremely important to me. Now, some of you will not like this phone because it's chunky. I'm actually going to assume it's even chunkier than this picture here. It looks very chunky, and the reason is that those two chips are sitting on top. Yep, chunky. I really want to see UB Touch running native ARM applications. Forget Ubuntu Touch. That's abandoned. Look for some other project to take over. So yeah, so whatever they're doing on the Librem 5 will be transferable to any phone that they make in the future. So the tech is it's open source, so it can be used by any future company, like the Pine phone. With that phone in my belt, I will tilt sideways. So anyway, if you actually understand what I'm saying, then you can see why I'm so angry with these zucking firmware, proprietary firmware that's on these phones, and we have no input, and we have lost our privacy, and they want to put a radar system on the Pixel 4. And they were actually proud of this. They actually boasted that the Pixel 4 radar is so accurate it can count pieces of paper. So is that phone difficult to operate? What? A Librem phone? It's just a Linux phone. Run Ubuntu and see if it's difficult. It's just like a computer. It's like, touch. It's like any touch computer. It's going to work the same way. So going back to this, so what's so different about something like a Linux phone, for example? Is that really so different? Well, that's a good question, Mario. So let's just study that for a moment. The fact of the matter is, the knowledge about touch applications and so on is pretty much standardized. And in fact, if you run Brax.me, my app Brax.me, and run it on Linux, it runs very well. It's you can run it on completely touch mode, and it runs quite well on Linux in touch on a phone. It will run with a mouse. It will run with a pen. It will run with your fingers, and it sizes and does all that automatically when it comes to a phone size. So it's so it means you don't have to expect that some things are gonna be so weird on a Linux phone that you're gonna say, is that gonna be really different? It's gonna be hard to use. No, because you can design the apps the same way. You can design the apps exactly the same way. How long will this Librem be supported and get updated, aside from the kernel, of course? Apparently forever, Lavendi, because it's open source. Apparently forever, and you can just say apt get install update, apt get install apt get upgrade. You can do that all day, and it will keep upgrading it. So you can go to the terminal command line and do it just like you do on any Linux box. So yeah, Linux is very predictable. Linux is very predictable. So are they intercepting your Brax communications via the black door? The black door. So yeah, think about it. If you're doing if you have a keylogger, meaning a rat. If you have a rat on your phone, then it doesn't matter what you're doing. You could be on WhatsApp, Telegram, Signal. It doesn't matter what you're on. It will be seen if they have a rat on this. So, Clayton Librem 5 is Debian based. So all you have to do is apt get whatever. So it should be simple. It's Debian based, and it's I think will come loaded with Pure OS as the distro, and so you can change it, but you might have some driver issues. And the Librem 6, Lavendi, and the Librem 6, it uses GTK apps. Yes, Clayton, I wrote some GTK apps. So I've never written GTK apps before, so I tried it and yep, ran GTK apps on it, and on Pure OS. Librem 5 would be great for running Linux Mint, which is what I'm running on my laptop now. Well, you have to use a touch interface that's suited for the phone. So I don't think you're going to want to run Mint on it. I think you're going to run something that they've already checked out as a distro that has whatever code they have for whatever apps they're going to give you on the phone, being in touch mode. So anyway, so some of you are saying, well, a phone that's in Linux, and that sounds kind of scary. And I know Windows, I know Mac OS X, Mac OS, and I know I've heard of this Linux thing, and I don't know what this is about. And now you're gonna put it on a phone, and it's like, what is this? I'm gonna do command line on a phone. And you know what? Times have changed, guys. If you have never tried like a new flavor of Linux, like Linux Mint, Ubuntu, and so on, and you load it on with the latest ones on your phone, on your computer. If I'm going to switch over, I switch over all the time. I'm running Windows, I'm running Mac OS, I'm running Linux, many flavors of Linux, and I'm running command line versions of Linux like Kali and so on. And I'm running command line versions of Linux on these little on the Raspberry Pi versions of this. So I'm running Linux all the time. And you know what? I don't really care what I'm running on. It doesn't actually matter. I mean, you get used to it. It looks the same to me after a while. Did you know how long before you get your Librem? They're planning on building 10,000 of these, Hawaii dealer. And I think the people who reserved on the initial the fundraiser, the crowdfunding thing. When they did the crowdfunding, I think that crowdfunding was for 3,000 people, and I believe they surpassed the 3,000 then. So I don't know where I am. I might be at the 6,000 mark. So I don't know. It may be a while before I get it. I think they're only planning on building 10,000 of these. So for this year, for the next 12 months, they're only going to be 10,000 Librems, which is such a small number compared to the 1.5 billion phones they're going to be building in 2019. 1.5 billion. Yum, the Kali flavored Linux has tools for hacking. Wow, Mad Cow, I'm really surprised about that. It really has tools for hacking, Mad Cow? You can load Kali Linux on even a tiny Raspberry Pi on this. I could have run this with Kali Linux to, hack your house when you put it in. But it's not going to do that. It's actually open. You could boot it and see what's inside. And there's no code in there to hack you. So anyway, I'm not, when you start running like modern versions of Linux desktops, the menu may look a little different. Good night, open source. Why good night? Where are you going? The menu might look different, it's different places. But if you're looking for the file manager, the browser, and you're not going to use Word, actually, to be honest, I don't even use Word anymore. I don't use any Microsoft Office on any computer. I don't, I had a subscription to Microsoft 365, and I was using it on my Mac, on my PC, and then even on Linux. And now I don't actually use any of that. I use open source stuff. So I use Open Office typically, and then there's LibreOffice as well. There's a couple of variations you can use on your device. And for basic things like basic word processing and so on, I don't need anything else. I don't know why I need to spend. You have some job tomorrow? Well, that's good. Doing any open source things tomorrow? Historic to have one of these 10K Librams. Yeah, we'll put it in a museum. 10 years from now, it'll be in a museum. Say, look at all those people, the few people who bought a Librem 5. In fact, there are fewer people who even have a Librem laptop. Apparently, there's not that many of those either. So, people were asking, can anyone do a review of the Librem laptop? And no one can do a review because very few people have them. So, yeah, Purism is a very small company. Purism is a very small company. So, I believe with all the laptops that they were selling, they were only making $1 million a year in revenue. Can we convert a Word doc to an open doc? Yes, I believe so. Yeah. No, open doc can read a Word doc. Yeah, I believe it can, yeah. So, I mean, there are differences, but I don't really use any of the advanced features. It's not really necessary for me. So I don't really need to care. So on my device, I'm actually just using all open source. Word processor, open source presentation, open source spreadsheet. Everything is open source. I don't even do spreadsheets nowadays. So I use Open Office, and then there's LibreOffice as well, which comes on, for example, on Ubuntu. It comes with LibreOffice. So it's up to you, but it's all out there, and I don't miss it. Even with my programming, I don't, everything I do is in the cloud now, and all of my source code and everything is all kept in the cloud. I don't really, if my computer breaks down, it doesn't matter. I can use a different computer and log into my data. I don't really lose anything if a computer breaks down. I don't store a lot of data on the computer itself. So my attitude is I don't really care if it's Windows, Linux, or Mac. It's a little bit different with the keystrokes if you change physical computer because the keyboard is different. But the way if I had the same computer that I was used to and I changed it from Mac OS X to Linux, it looked the same to me. Now, some of you are very picky about that, and you might say, "Well, I only want to use I don't want to use Linux because it's too different from a Mac or too different from Windows." Well, So for those of you at that kind of basic level, they have two kinds of Linux distros you should look at, and uh, is that mainly because I have my own servers? I'm only using Brax and Lighten Up. I'm not using anything different. I'm using what you can use. I'm using Brax. I store my files in Brax. I'm not doing anything different than you are. I'm using the same tools. Except I rely on it more. I put everything that I do, even documents and things, I put it all on Brax.me because I know it's encrypted because I put it there. I put it with encryption, so I know it's going to be safe there, so that's where I put it. Ubuntu Linux is totally acceptable for, well, I don't know. I don't know if it is, Hawaii Dealer, but let me just tell you this. If you're running a Mac, let's say you like a Mac, and you're going to say, well, I'm used to the way the Mac works and I don't want to really change. Well, they actually made a version of Linux that is more Mac-like, where the icons are in the bottom and the middle and kind of works more like a Mac. And that Linux distribution, which is a variation or a fork of Ubuntu, is called Elementary OS. So if you want to try it out and say, well, I want a Linux with more of a Mac feel, can I do that? And Elementary OS. Now, some of you are saying, well, I want it to look like Windows 7. I want, the start menu on the start button on the left corner, and then it pops out the menu and all that. I want it like that. Because, the standard Linux is the menus on top. So I want it on the lower left corner. That version of Linux is called Zorin. So if you want that, you can load Zorin. Now me, I'm like, who cares if it's on the left, right, top, whatever. It makes no difference to me. It makes the dude. It makes no difference for me, where to put stuff, and or what to use, because they all operate the same way. So on Linux it's on top, on Windows it's on the left, but they all do the same thing. There's settings, there's file manager, and you manipulate the files the same way. It's pretty much the same. One thing that I will tell you, though, that Linux is very, very predictable. The way Linux is set up is pretty much, that's why command line is so easy on well, not easy, but command line is easy to memorize on Linux or even Unix, because it's very consistent the way it's organized. Whereas Windows, oh my gosh! Now I'm a Windows OS expert. I've been an expert of Microsoft operating systems, since DOS 1.0. And, so I know everything about how Windows is. And, starting from like Windows 95, they started to hide things. They started to hide things. And then it's like, where the zuck can you find something? They keep changing it with every zucking version. Control panel is different. And all the stuff that you use to manage the computer, they keep hiding it, so that on and on and on, to this day, every new version of Windows, you're going to find out where the hell do you manage this? Why do you keep changing it? And because they want to make it so that the average person doesn't know how it works. So they're actually trying to, manipulate the system so that you don't know how it works. Well, Linux doesn't work like that. Linux is very, very predictable. Everything is always the same. Log files are always in var log. The executables are typically found for the common apps in etc whatever, and you find all this stuff in regular places, and it is predictable. And there's a lot of it's command line, but a lot of nowadays you can do a lot of stuff on the desktop anymore. So they don't actually need you don't need to even go to that advanced level. But if you ever need to control something on the computer, you don't have to be so advanced that you can't figure it out, because they never change it. It's always the same. On a Windows computer, good luck at the next version. Good luck. Windows 10, I can't, they just did an update on Windows 10, and I can't even find something as simple as disk util or disk part because I wanted to format a USB drive. I couldn't even do that. The program is not even on Windows 10 the standard. It's like, what the heck is this? It's just it's just bothersome that because that's the philosophy of even the Mac. Hide stuff so you can't figure anything out because we're going to take care of you. We know what we're doing. We're going to take care of you so we know what we're doing, and you don't. So just follow what we say. And by the way, we're going to go track you and take away your privacy, but that's none of your business. We're going to do what we want, and you don't have any control over it. And then enjoy the operating system. So I'm just like, I'm sick and tired of this. Now, one of the other reasons that you ought to consider using Linux is just because you can use old computers with it. Disk management, yeah, right. Go find it on Windows 10. Type disk management on there. Actually, you type the full word, disk management, and it's like, here's instructions, and then you click on it, and there's nothing. It's not there. So, it's not on the control panel. So, anyway, it's just, I like the old days where I just do fdisk, and you just know, okay, fdisk. You don't have to guess. Format /s. Can't do that anymore. They want to make sure you can't do that. Well, you can still do it on Linux. And if you don't want to, use a desktop. Did you right click? Zuck. E.T. Buck thinks I'm a newbie. So, CD. Anyway, one of the advantages of using this sounds more appropriate. What? Aside, one of the good reasons for using Linux is that it works on old computers. Now, does Linux work on a Mac? I actually don't know. Can somebody answer me that question? Can you install Linux on a Mac OS X computer? Not the old Macs, but a newer Mac. Can you actually install something else on a? Can you install this elementary OS on a Mac computer? I don't know. Yes, Matt Cow says yes. Because I have some old Macs in here, and they're getting old, and it would be nice to have them with some newer operating system, and then it would be a little bit faster. So, yes, but the Y2 chip is a pain. Y2 chip? There's a Y2 chip? I don't know how to say your name there in Chinese. I don't understand Chinese, so. Right click on my computer, then left click manage and opens up the system management app. Yeah, right, Ross. Back in the old days, you just say, see, I forgot now. There's like an administrative section and you have to right click on suck. Will Linux work on my Mac Classic? I doubt it. Monkey Man, I did. I did. So it's true. I did have some alcoholic beverages, even though it's not adult beverage Friday. So yes, if you can install a new version, install a new version of Linux on a Mac, you can keep it up to date and see what happens. It would be interesting. You need a 68K Mac. You need a what? 68K Mac. What does that mean? You need a 68K Mac. I mean, I presume you mean in some Intel Mac. You need a X68, an X68 Mac. Yeah. Well, obviously. Right. You need AMD. So, success for my case, I used a 6-year-old computer and I ran it with the latest version of Ubuntu, and it's like running very well. 8086, X86 actually is what I meant. I was just taking his numbers and I was like, it's like inverted. X86. X86. That's a vintage model. Samira is alive. Oh my gosh. Samira is alive. How are you doing, my friend? That's you're alive. My goodness, you disappeared. Well, good to see you, my friend. Good to see you. Here to say hi. Well, say hi in other places. You know where. You know where I am, Samira. You know where I am. By the way, I want to tell you something. For those of you, especially on YouTube, a lot of you may not know this, but I have an app, and the app is called Brax.me, and it's a privacy-based app. The whole premise of the app is to retain privacy and be able to talk freely without having to reveal your name, your email, your IP address, and so on. It's a place that you can talk and assume any identity you want, and have free speech as well. And most of the people on there are into privacy. And some of you have actually asked me on YouTube about how to contact me and contact this group. And a lot of you have gone to Brox.me, and so it's starting to get a new crowd in there again. And for those of you who are new, I'm going to have to keep announcing this every night. For those of you who are new to my channel, yes, we don't have to talk in public on YouTube. We do not have to do that. And you can't really go talk to me on Twitter or anything because I won't talk to you. And you can't email me either because I won't talk to you in email. So if you want a conversation, especially about the topics we're talking about here, about privacy, about specific things with hardware and VPNs and so on, please contact us. Contact us as a group on Brax.me, and contact me on Brax.me. My handle on Brax.me is Rob Braxman. So Samira, for example, is a broadcaster on Brax.me. So come on by, and I know there's a lot of new people on Brax.me lately from. And I haven't really been promoting it, but you're just seeing it as side comments on on the description of my videos. I have Brax.me on there. Some of you have been clicking on it, even though I haven't actually actively been talking about it, and which is great that I'm not actively talking about it and you're coming in. So now I'm actively talking about it. If you want to chat about these topics and you have questions, let's chat as a group. And if I can't answer it, I'm always there, of course. But if I can't answer the question, then somebody else might want to chime in and answer it for you. So come on in, and especially people who are interested in Linux and all that. We want to expand that community and get more discussions going where we can actually talk. We can't talk on YouTube. YouTube is for us to meet. You can't really have a discussion in there. Okay, so come on over to. Come on over to Brax.me, and it runs on your phone. It runs on Android, it runs on iOS, and it will run on Linux. It will run on the Librem 5 as well, guaranteed. It will run on the Librem 5. So come on by, and maybe Samira will resume broadcasting on Brax.me, and you can watch Samira play music over there. So anyway, back to what I'm saying, and I wasn't planning on a very long broadcast today. I was just trying to make sure I answer questions that I didn't finish from my broadcast yesterday, because my broadcast was cut short by an hour. So there you go, Samira. So Yeah, Samir, there's a lot of new people showing up, and mostly because of YouTube. So they're not from Periscope anymore. So a new bunch of people are showing up on Periscope, coming from YouTube. And I'm not really talking about it much, and they're coming. So I will talk about it more because we don't have options. If you're going to my channel on YouTube and you're looking and saying, well, I want to talk more about this kinds of topics, privacy and so on, and I don't know where to go, and yes, Brax.me is the place to go, and I've been really focusing on it, not just as any average social media, but Brax.me is a privacy-based social media. Yet, yes, it has some very secure features like end-to-end encryption and so on. But even forgetting about that, the public areas on Brax.me are very safe areas. Hello, go Rice Girl, because you never have to reveal who you are. You're not required to give a email. You can use Google Auth or Authy to authenticate your account, and to make sure you can recover it, for two-factor, and you don't need any email or anything else, and you can call yourself whatever you want, and it doesn't go to Google. You can't be searched. RSBN live streaming on YouTube was canceled 72 hours ago. Is Brax capable of handling their business? I don't know who RSBN is, but Brax does handle broadcasting. Although nowadays I don't. I only accept the broadcast. The broadcast is being retransmitted from either Twitch or YouTube. I don't actually originate the broadcast anymore. Too costly, so I turned it off. I can turn it back on if the demand were there, but right now I am not supporting video broadcasts directly. I'm taking the broadcast that you take from someplace else, and you can put the comments on Brax, as you can now. Right now I'm broadcasting this on Brax.me as a restream. So this is a restream of YouTube on Brax.me, and you can put your comments on Brax.me. Except I'm not monitoring the comments. So yes, and the audio though is native to Brax.me, so you can do audio broadcasts, and it would be on Brax.me only. So that's handled there. So anyway, going back to the problem with the people who want to use Linux, the issue is that the apps are not going to be the same apps that you can find on Android, or I don't even know what RSBN is. Is that some political network? Must be, okay. Political network, okay. Yeah, come on over to Brax. You're all welcome on either side. So anyway, the apps are different on a computer, a Mac, a PC, Android, and right side broadcasting. Yeah, but is that related to? That's not. What is it? Be right. It's not be right, right? Because I don't want to have anything to do with that. Be right. You know what I'm talking about, right? Be right from Periscope. Oh, what's his name? See, I forgot his name already. I'm not reaching out to anyone, E.T. Bach. I got other things to do. They're all welcome. I don't have to reach out. I can just use it. It's open. Don't need to reach out. Yeah, well, Joey is the good guy, but the other guy. Closer. There you go. Closer guy. The closer guy. I don't want to have anything to do with that. They are not welcome. So yeah, if closer, he's never gonna do it anyway. But no, he's not welcome. He can go set it up someplace else with his fake accounts. right? So, but anyone else is welcome. I make no exclusion. So even if Closure said, I want to set up an account, he will not. But if he did, I couldn't stop him. I'd say, well, but I'm not going to invite him because in my mind, you're not welcome. Yes, great caffeine to go. I'm glad to know that. Glad to know that because I just don't want any association with that, with anything to do with that guy. So yeah, no association with that. If you're not associated with that, it's fine. So anyway, uh, uh, so the thing about in today's refusing Brax is always a mistake, in my opinion. Uh, them refusing Brax or me refusing them Brax? Great goal. I didn't understand that comment. Anyway, when you run apps on just in general, yes, you're not going to think about running Microsoft 365 on Linux, or you're not going to think about running somewhat, if there's anything on Linux that you really need to run that you can't run, the biggest thing that I find that is most limiting for me in Linux that you cannot run is Adobe products. You cannot run Adobe Photoshop. You cannot run Adobe Premiere Pro. The stuff that we use for videos, YouTube people use Adobe Premiere. That does not run on Linux. Adobe does not support Linux. So that is the major missing piece on Linux. But aside from that, it runs, thousands and thousands of Linux apps. In some ways, there are more Linux apps than even Windows apps because it's open, such an open community, and people are doing free apps of various sorts, and so easy to do things, even big things on Linux. In fact, if you didn't know this, Brax.me is running on Linux. If you're asking how Brax.me is running on Linux servers. Brax.me has run on Linux servers since day one. So Brax.me has been running on Debian Linux servers since day one. So right there, what if you run virtual Windows on your Linux to run Adobe? The graphics card may have difficulty with Premiere Pro. Yeah, there'd be some graphics problem. It might not actually be functional. I wouldn't try to run something as CPU intensive as Premiere Pro. To try to run that on a virtual machine doesn't sound to me to be a good idea. So could you do it? I haven't tried it. I mean, to run Windows within Linux is kind of I don't know. I mean, there's more